The modern dog once shared a common ancestor with the wolf, but instead of remaining a dangerous and efficient predator whose survival depends on hunting its meal, the dog evolved into a cute and securing companion that used humans as permanent food suppliers. The more adorable they were, the more humans loved and took care of them, the bigger their chances of survival. This simple biological fact, which Martin learned one evening by watching Neil deGrasse Tyson's show Cosmos over spaghetti and ketchup, had been in the centre of his line of work for the past 3 years. Yorkshire Terrier, Pomeranian, Maltese, Boston Terrier, French Bulldog, Labradoodle, these adorable miniature hounds were the perfect snatch. Cute, small, expensive. In many ways, Martin was a fraud, a con artist, an asshole, but he often recalled the acute pain he experienced as a child when Rocco went missing, and for that he convinced himself that even the world's most spoilt kid never deserved such sorrow. So he settles for a less lucrative but more ethical kind of banditry. In short, he stole dogs and collected the reward money by the family for its retrieval. From 9 AM to 5 PM Monday to Friday, his practice consisted of garnishing a fine steak with a mild amount of tranquilizers, which he'd throw in the front yard of a wealthy-looking house before blowing a high-pitched whistle and wait for the beast to feed. He'd then delicately load the unconscious bitch in the back of the van, drive back to his warehouse and lock it up in a cage. 4 to 5 days later, he'd come back in the very same neighbourhood and look for posters promising compensation for the missing animal, and without even a hint of guilt, Martin would return the pet safe and sound to a cheerful and highly rewarding family. He loved seeing children and pets reunited. The smiles, screams and hugs. He took a certain pleasure in his work, if anything. His thieveries brought happiness to this world. One day, on a tranquil summer afternoon in Beverly Hills, where he loved to hunt for potential prey, Martin was sitting in his van, killing time with a blues and jazz Spotify playlist and a Bloody Mary in a McDonald's cup. He glances out of the window and takes another sip from the articulated straw. Too much Worcestershire. Martin grunts and puts the cup back in its unfit holder. All of a sudden, a cat jumps on the hood of his 1997 Ford E150 van. Startled at first, then intrigued, Martin gets out to check its name tag. "My name is Jeff. Please bring me back to 698N Arden Drive, Beverly Hills." That's over 20 blocks away. Martin has never snatched a cat before, but he couldn't imagine why the process would be any different. On the other hand, he couldn't bring it back to the warehouse because all of the cages were packed until tomorrow. He also couldn't bring it back to his apartment because his psychotic roommate Mark hated pets and might even lose his shit for even the most insignificant goldfish. Looking at the cat's incredibly clean fur, Martin establishes that it couldn't have been lost for more than a day, which would probably be too soon to bring it back to its owners and expect a reward. Alright, you know what? I feel like a good and charitable man today, so I'll just drive. Martin interrupts his monologue and checks the feline's genitals. Him home for free. "47 minutes and exactly 18 blocks away, Martin faces a large gate with gold-plated bars and spikes absolutely everywhere. The property feels enormous, even from behind this wall of trees and a tall hedge. After a quick look around, he presses the only oddly oversized button on the intercom and holds the feline in front of the now lit up security camera. A voice answers. He explains. The gate opens. As he walks to the front door of the now oddly familiar mansion, Martin feels proud of his clean attitude towards the situation. He had recently decided to become a better man, and this was, conveniently, a symbolic way to start. His finger is filled with confidence as he presses the doorbell, and the first keys of Beethoven's Feline can be heard from inside the house. Shit, he remembers now. Martin was in this exact same spot 2 weeks ago when he brought back this ridiculous black pug he'd snatched from the back gate. His most important rule is to never con the same family twice, and he's just broken it. A woman opens. She recognises him. It turns out the owner of Jeff, the wife of some extremely powerful Eastern European drug lord, who just happened to be spending 6 months' holiday in California, had already lost her dog, Crosby, 2 weeks ago. Back then she was nothing but delighted when a stranger knocked on her door with the missing animal in his arms and simply thanked him by paying him graciously. However, earlier today her suspicions would raise when she'd hear from one of her Beverly Hills neighbours, who she'd invited to chat over some gin and tonics. The multiple other dog owners had described their exact same situation, and every time it involves a man with long blonde hair in his 30s who pretended to have found it. The wife, who had just recently celebrated her 35th anniversary with one of the most dangerous and influential men in the world, was not used to being disrespected in such a way. But because she was too busy enjoying the Californian sun, she decided to forget about the insignificant amount of money the $300 she'd given him represented. But when the man had the boldness to show up a second time, she felt utterly insulted and lost her shit. 56 hours later, Martin was buried alive in the middle of the Californian desert by a bunch of Georgian mobsters.
All the leaves are brown and the sky is gray. I went for a walk on a winter's day.